They say this time of year is nostalgic. It's really because it's just a time of year that's full of memory. Our Christmas tree is like that at our house. It's not one of those Better Homes and Gardens trees. You're not going to see it on Pinterest because nothing on it really matches anything else. Instead, it's a tree that's filled with reminders. We get them and we put them up on the tree and we retell the stories of where we got this ornament. Like the trip to Philadelphia that we took, or when we went out west and saw the bears, and so we have a bear one, or we've gone to go back and see our children and their pictures when they're little, or even Megan's baby picture is up on our Christmas tree. And they tell about these seasons of life, they tell about these important moments, they tell about things that we want to make sure get passed on and remembered because they matter. Repetition, doing that every year, is great for helping us to remember. And that's one of the things that happens this time of year too, right? We kind of repeat the same things year to year. We call them traditions. Some of you have those things, like there has to be the movie that everybody watches in your family every year at this time. Whatever it is, The Grinch, Christmas Vacation, whatever the case may be. For me, it's The Muppet Christmas Carol. I can still remember going on Christmas Eve to watch it in the theaters for the first time. We sing the same songs and listen to the same songs over and over again. Whole radio stations change to play what seems like the same 5 songs over and over again for 6 weeks leading up to Christmas. Maybe yours is All I Want for Christmas Is You, or Handel's Messiah, or even Silent Night. And you hear those songs and they just take you someplace. Whether it's a feeling or an emotion. Because repetition and rhythm together, like a song, are incredible for our memory. They are doing wonders to help people in Alzheimer's conditions. It's incredible because that's the reason why I still know all the words to Ice Ice Baby, even though I haven't heard it in 30 years. It's because the repetition and the rhythm together just drill themselves into our brain. And so you hear a song and you know it's for a specific time, and it takes you right back to that place of remembering. Whether it's pomp and circumstance and you remember the time you finally graduated when no one in your family had before, or you really were concerned you weren't going to, or maybe the song that cues up more memories than any other, Happy Birthday. And yeah, the memories that come up might always be good. But we have to bring the past into the present. Because the present by itself is wild. It is untamable, and it is completely unstable, and it is always changing. It is constantly in motion. And it is hard to feel steady and secure when all you have is this present moment. Which is why so many of us who have lost that connection to the past feel anxious and disturbed and confused and all of these kinds of things all of the time. And so one minute we're laughing, and then the next minute we're crying, and then we're laughing again to keep from crying because things just keep shifting around. And it's unsettling because what anchors you in the present? Like right now, what is holding you in place against all of the waves and the winds of life? I'm convinced that a lot of the feelings of grief that we have, a lot of the sadness, a lot of the anxiety and confusion that comes into our life comes because the anchors that we were trusting in break. Like the family would always be together, and then Grandma, who was kind of like the glue, passed away. And things just haven't been the same. Or you get into situations where you just do not know what to do or where to go, and it looks like it could be hopeless. There's a couple I've become aware of that they have a teenage daughter, and this daughter has a rare neurological condition that is so rare that they don't even know necessarily where to go and find the help that they need. And the fact of the matter is, when they do find it, they can't afford it. So what are they supposed to do in the present? Or maybe you've worked hard and you've done all the right things, and then the person that you know you are are better qualified than. Maybe you even train them is the one that gets the job that you are aiming for. And these things just kind of happen. And when we were counting on family connections or relationships or that person that was always going to be there, when we were counting on our finances or our hard work or our skills, and those things fail us in the present moment, what are we supposed to hold on to? And when those things let go, the present without an anchor leads to legitimate pain and sorrow. And maybe you're feeling some of that this season. Like the lights are bright, you feel dimmed. Because where is joy when your present hurts? There's a group of psalms in the scriptures called Psalms of Ascent. And these actually came from a place of hurt, like you might be feeling. The people individually and as a nation had kept ending up in these really unstable and painful places because they forgot who their anchor was supposed to be. One of the biggest moments that this took place was called the exile. So all of the Jewish people that remained in Israel were overrun and conquered, and instead of letting them stay there, their conquerors picked them up and plucked them out of that place and relocated them throughout their empire in new places with new cultures and new lands where they didn't know the language or the people or have any kind of status. And this not only moved them and disoriented everything in their life, it also disoriented their relationship with God because it cut them off from worship at the temple. Because the temple was the place where they knew they could meet with God. The sacrifices took place there. The priests were there. Everything was tied around that. And if that was gone and they were disconnected to that, then how would they ever be connected to God? And these songs of ascent were supposed to be for that time going to the temple. They were for the pilgrimages up to Jerusalem. And they were sung not just at any time, they were sung at specific times of pilgrimage, where there were these three main festivals that they were supposed to go to. And these festivals were the Passover, which had to deal with the Exodus when they were brought out of slavery in Egypt. There's a festival of booths, where they were to remember the time of their wandering in the wilderness, lost in the wilderness, and God's presence with them. And then the last festival was the Harvest Festival, which points to the fact that God had given them land, a place to plant and harvest. And so the songs of ascent were crafted and refocused on, in particular, during this time of being in exile. Now, why in their present pain would they need to remember these kind of moments? One of the examples of a song of ascent is Psalm 126. It starts, "When the Lord brought back the captives to Zion, we were like men who dreamed. Our mouths were filled with laughter, our tongues with songs of joy. Then it was said among the nations, the Lord has done great things for them. The Lord has done great things for us, and we are filled with joy." In other words, think back. As you come to meet with God, think back to the time when the Lord restored the fortunes of Zion, when He set them free, when He brought them home, when they got rescued from those that would oppress them and kill them. And when they came back, it was like they were in a dream. They couldn't believe it. It was too awesome to wrap their minds around. And so they responded with all they could come up with: laughter and songs of joy. Don't you love when there's like little babies or toddlers around and they just are so enjoying what's happening that they can't help but just laugh? And it's the kind of laughter that makes you stop and smile and fills you with a sense of joy too, because it's just so pure. That's what they were experiencing in this moment. And what God had done for them wasn't some small thing. It was something so big that the nations around them were talking about it. It was getting spoken about. And so they confirmed what everyone else was thinking about. You say that God's done great things. You are exactly right. He has done incredible things for us. He has done things we can't even understand. For God is great. And we are so filled with joy because of it. Now, Webster's dictionary defines joy this way as a feeling from well-being, success, or the promise of possessing what you desire. So here are these people remembering all that God has done for them in the past. And then it turns to the present. In verse 4, he says, "Restore our fortunes, O Lord, like streams in the Negev. Those who sow in tears will reap with songs of joy. He who goes out weeping, carrying seed to sow, will return with songs of joy, carrying sheaves with him." In other words, the present, as great as the past was, the present, there's still some uncertainty. There's still some unsettledness. There's still some pain and hurt in the midst of it. And they need to be restored again by the Lord. Now, the Lord here points to who they are calling out to. This is Yahweh, the God who has made a covenant with them, a God who has proven himself over and over again in the past to be faithful because he loves them. And so, yeah, there's tears, but because of the Lord, they won't reap more sorrow. They're going to reap songs of joy. They may go out with tears as seeds, but they're going to come back in with a harvest that is going to be full of joy and laughter. This is a song that in the midst of present pain still finds reason for joy and hope. Remembering was leading the people to trusting. Remember the Exodus. Remember God's presence with us in the wilderness. Remember when we finally got the land. Remember all of the times that God rescued us and brought us home. Every time we thought it was too bad and there was no hope, God showed up. And he showed up in incredible ways for his people. And yes, there are tears in the present moment, but tears in the present do not last. Because our promise-keeping God redeems our pain. God will not waste your pain or your tears. And if God is the same now as he was then, that means that he will do again what he did then. So when we take the memory of who God is and what he has done, and we combine it with the trust that he is still in that business of rescuing and redeeming and restoring, that's when we can have joy erupting in the midst of wherever we are. Because now our anchor is not on all of these other things that we grasp for that break. Our anchor is in Jesus Christ. Memory plus trust equals joy. We talked about it a little bit last week, right? Where has God shown up in your life? Remember. Whoever you are, wherever you are, you have a God who has been seeking you and has been coming for you since before you were born. He has been active in your life. Remember it. And when you remember that God is a God who shows up and loves you, you can know he is a God who will keep his promises, which means he is a God that you can trust. And you can trust him no matter where you find yourself, because he will hold you when everything else breaks loose. When you are not tied to your circumstances, but you're tied to Jesus, you have reason for joy no matter what you are going through. And I've been there. I've been in places where I didn't know where I was going to eat. I've been in places where I didn't know where I was going to work. I've been in places where I've been praying for people I love because they are just falling apart. I've been in places where I'm praying for miracles, literally people coming back from the dead because the death was so sudden and painful and unnecessary. I've been in those places. I know what circumstances look like when you are hurting in the present. But there can still be joy when you realize that there is someone who will hold you through all that and move you forward. Because it doesn't matter if it was in the past, in the present, or in the future. We are held by the one who was, who is, and who is to come. So wherever you find yourself right now, you don't have to stay there. The good news in the uncertainty of your present is that, yeah, you may only have seeds of tears to sow now, but a harvest is coming where He will restore. Because His presence in my present changes everything. Connected to Him, I get to have the well-being, the success, and yet even the promise of receiving what I ultimately desire. Because He's there. Because there is real life found in Jesus, I get to have the actual definition of joy in my life. And for today, my prayer is that you would take some time to remember that you might know that you can trust Him. And that because of that, wherever you find yourself, you'll be able to move forward with joy because you will know that He is present in your present. And He will see you through. Father, remind us of who you are so that we can deepen our trust in you. For if we trust you, joy is possible wherever we are because you are present in our presence. And you faithfully fulfill your promises now and for eternity. Amen.